This is another video from the virtual reading group dedicated to the French classical literature, and we continue reading this small novel by Honoré de Balzac called The Sign of the Cat and the Racket. And here we are covering the next two paragraphs, which are paragraph 5 and paragraph 6, and essentially there is a sense of one needs to read the paragraphs, and then with each paragraph one is deeper into the narrative, so that one immerses itself into the reality that the author is actually laying out in the novel, and then as that happens, the analysis of it becomes slightly more difficult, because we become closer to the main protagonist, the young man, and here the author comes close to the person, even literally. Sort of his narrative actually zooms in on the person, so that we get a very close understanding of how the young man is dressed, the style, and I must add that in the description there is the sense of a detective novel eye that the author actually applies to the young man, so that he creates a description, and then he is also analytical in his own right. And there is a sort of a picture in the picture effect in the narrative, as it is well, basically an intention of the author to be presenting the narrative as if he were a passerby, so that it is less of a realist device, but also sort of an optics, which is probably is not necessarily a realist in terms of the emergence of the realist literature in France, but is some sort of some sort of an effort to conjure up both a scene and then have a sense of the immediacy, so that we have some details of the dress which indicate that this young man has just came out of a ball or some sort of a formal event, and he is dressed very formally in very high quality shoes, in white stockings, which are already showing signs of mud, showing signs of him walking very fast. There is a sense of the dynamics. And then we catch the person in medias res somewhere in a moment when he found repose in a bustling city, so that we have some sort of a panoramic presentation of Paris as a bustling, noisy city, and this is a quiet street where the person is actually standing and watching a shop, and there is also a sense of the reciprocity. There is a clear understanding somebody is actually peering out of the shop onto the onlook, onto the someone, well, a stranger standing not too far from the shop, and we have that charged scene where we essentially anticipate what is going to be happening next, and then we have that also self-awareness of the author being a writer, and he is also using very consciously pictorial effects, so that Honoré de Balzac shows his education as he actually cites David as a major French painter at the time. He essentially references Greek and Roman style of painting, and there is a sense of an effort, say there's an effort by the author to actually draw upon the high culture of the time to paint the picture. And also there's a sense of the style. There's a sense of, let's say, there's an effort by the author to also capture style and give it a certain, a name to characterize the main character, and it is a style which is very much outdated by now, but there is a sense of the rich detail present in the narrative, in the text. And then also there is a sense of this being sort of a near market district, so that this is some sort of a side street near the city center, and also there is a sense of the noise of the market not too far from the place where the actions are shown unfolding. And we have a sense of somebody else passing by, so that we become increasingly acquainted with that still nameless main character, and then there is a sort of second-hand estrangement in the narrative, so that even though it is a novel and it is just a description, but the author makes an effort to give more life to the scene, as it will become more engaging further down the road. And also the sense of the soundtrack, so that the author is actually using every sense of hearing, of space, so that a cart, let's say, I would say a market cart passing by adds to that 3D effect to the novel, which also gives that dynamics of the soundtrack, so that a quiet moment, a roaring, more like noisy moment passes by, and that also gives the author some sort of a liberty and also a pause to be able to step back and then look at the scene itself. There is a reflexive side note, a side reflection, so that there is a sense of both a sense of the irony or humor or ridiculousness present in the text. And also there is a sense that both the onlooker and the shop itself somehow cast shadows of irony upon each other in the narrative, and there is also a sense of the psychology, so that one should think about maybe, let's say, early narratives of psychological reflection, and even though we at this moment would think of the birth of psychology only something that would be happening for us in the aftermath from maybe at best late 19th century and maybe early 20th century at best. Here there is a sense of the incipient beginnings of the psychological reflection, psychological classification and description of the affect that essentially a writer uses as his tools. These are his basic tools, these are his basic medium to give life to the character, and also to maybe reflect more broadly on the nature of joy, on the nature of changing emotions, or on the nature of the negative emotions, so that a single person can show in his face a whole range of positive and negative emotions. And I think in this respect also one should probably give credence to the rhetorical tools that the author uses in order to both interrogate the main character and to pose more general questions about the nature of humanity, about the nature of the moment, and sort of the nature of the scene he constructs on the spot, so that we have that sense of of a doomed young man, a doomed youth, standing in front of a ridiculous shop, and he himself being decked out in a way that makes him look out of place, makes that young man look sort of outside of his natural environment, or maybe mismatching in his the formal attire, the humdrum nature of the environment, of the side street in a shopping district or whatever it may be, or let's say a side street near the market. And I think this is what makes that a sense of the mise-en-scène, of that sense of the effort by the author to give grace, to give elegance, to give some features into the description of the main character, which actually make him approachable to us psychologically, so that there is a sense of the narrative becoming thicker in a descriptive way. It is some sort of an introduction into the larger narrative, and this is where we stand right now, and this is what essentially the effort by the author is to get the narrative rolling from that point on.